The way the question is framed for you makes a difference. Do I want to go to the movies, yes or no? Am I going to the movies? But what's happened here? You found the way to ask the question. You found the way to ask the question to give you a yes or no answer. The first question gives you yes and no. Almost always yes, but then the and no comes in, because then if I do that, I'm going to get some grief from my family because I'm not home and so on, and I always want to go, but they don't like it, and all of that and all. So you found a way to frame the question that gives you a direct answer of yes or no, which is fruitful for everybody. If the answer is yes and no, very nicely put. If it's yes and no, reframe the question. You reframe the question so you can come back to yes or no. When you do that, you're keeping the body in tune. You're keeping it in a process of being in life. Just as we talked about with the disemergency state, 1 minute life repair, you are consolidating the life forces because you're staying out of the conflict, which necessitates the rationalizations, the justifications, the defenses, all of that stuff, which in itself is dissipating, because you're making up stories which has to engender in other people to whom you give these rationalizations conflict. They're going to respond by taking the other side. Generally speaking, they're going to contest it. And they're not going to accept your rationalization, as you know in your everyday, and we all have that in our everyday experience. When we rationalize with another person or give an excuse or justify or defend, it raises the other person's ire very commonly. So they begin to debate and to take a contentious position with you. Now you're in the conflict, something that is dissipative of our life force and leads us to death, because your energy is getting sapped on a physiological level. So very nicely put that the yes and no needs to be reframed. And that unburdens you, so that there's nothing more to say. So it falls upon us to frame it in a way that can be answered satisfactorily, yes or no. So not to make a judgment about necessarily one or the other. The question that gets reframed, today, do I want to go to Bloomingdale's? That's the only thing that can be on your mind at that moment. Once you start to add in the other factors that could be modifying all of that, now you're in the conflict with yourself. You're talking about the conflict you engender in yourself, the war that goes on in you. When it's simply a matter of taking stock of what it is that you are desiring to do, framing the question where it doesn't end up in a yes and a no, but it's simply yes or no. And once it's done, yes or no, it's finished. There's no more that has to be talked about. Now you're on to the next moment, and whatever that brings. And you find yourself feeling free. It's a common experience of people who do this process. You're feeling free. And suddenly there's a new coloration to life and a new clarity that comes. And what we're talking about really is growing up. It's really a function of maturity. In adult, as you function into adult life, yes or no becomes more central to your experience and your actions, definitely, as does the absence of the emergency states, the false emergencies and so on. It's all part of growing up. But we're talking about maturing according to spiritual principles, and that the spiritual principles, taking part in our everyday life and employing them in our everyday life, allows us to grow into realized human beings. That's what it does. Because in our sense of adult and mature, we become a realized being, a being that finds, as we clear away the obstacles, truth, and then unity.